家に帰ったら、俺の全てをお前に教えるよ。
Third-class cabin. The repulsive scent of sweat and rotten vegetables lingers in the air in the resurrection's third-class cabin. However, you have no interest in worrying about that right now. You just helped your friend Emilia Jones, the older daughter of the richest family in Miss City, last night. You carried out a kidnapping to get her out of an arranged marriage with Lord Ian and helped her elope with her childhood sweetheart Randy. The original plan was for her to leave Miss City aboard the Resurrection at 3 in the afternoon, where she would meet up with Randy at the next stop. There, they would take a train out of Bacolod and get married abroad. But all of that is overshadowed by an announcement in the Miss City Daily this morning.
探偵というものを嫌うお父様が、まさかムトで大人気の探偵ミスター・ミナセに依頼をするなんて。
Hearing Luke's name come out of Emilia's mouth causes your heart to tremble. It's the name familiar to you since childhood until you were separated from him in the orphanage 8 years ago. You never had the chance to call out his name except for that one time. Half a year ago in Miss City Avenue, Luke's figure suddenly enters your sight. Luke! You call out his name almost reflexively. He hears his name being called and looks at you from above the crowd. You catch a gleam of surprise in his eyes, but it is quickly replaced by a look of bewilderment.
失礼ですが、どこかでお会いしましたか？
His tone is cool and surprised, almost like a stranger, which sends a chill through your body. You don't remember me? Luke frowns and gives it a moment of thought. Then he faces you with an indifferent look.
初対面だと思います。
Is your name Luke? He clearly reacted to the name earlier. Something's wrong if he denies it now.
はい。ですが、この名前はベカロンではありふれているので、きっと人違いだと思いますよ。
How could I? Even if Luke's reasons are sound, you still doubt the existence of another person who would look so similar and have the same name.
特に用がないのでしたら、これで失礼しますね。
Luke leaves with that excuse, as if he's afraid you might continue to badger him. After that encounter in the street, you never saw Luke in Miss City again, but there was no shortage of news about him solving cases.
今回の誘拐が自作自演であること、ミスター・ミナセはすでに気づいているのかしら。
Emilia's concerns pulled you back from your thoughts about Luke. We don't need to worry about that for the time being. After all, we made a mess of the scene, which should be confusing enough. Just remember, our primary objective is to buy enough time to get you out of Miss City. Besides, didn't we already agree on a plan?
それってダブルリーフがイオン教に報復するために私を誘拐したっていう嘘を流す作戦のこと？
You know, Trefoil is an illegal organization that specializes in brutal revenge against aristocrats. They use the trefoil, a weed commonly found everywhere in Bacolod, as their logo, spreading it throughout the country. Although the organization faded from the public eye 4 years ago, no one knows if trefoil will ever make a resurgence. Emilia may not be an aristocrat, but her fiancé, Lord Ian, is. It's reasonable to assume that trefoil kidnapped Emilia to get back at Ian. So when devising Amelia's escape plan, you decided to be the important witness that would provide baffling clues about Trefoil.
どうか全てがうまくいきますように。
Amelia had a worried look on her face, and you can't help but take her hand to comfort her. Don't worry, it will. But if there's a detective involved in this, then I'd better get back and prepare.
戻るって、あなたあの探偵に目をつけられてるの？
No, don't worry, but since I'm your friend, he'll probably come to me for information. He might get suspicious if I'm absent. Hearing this, Amelia frowns again.
本当に大丈夫なの？
Relax, I know what I'm doing.
あなたがすごい人なのは知ってる。けど。
Amelia doesn't continue, but you understand she'd worried about involving you in her elopement. You look at the time. There are still 5 hours until the resurrection sets seal. There are still 5 hours left. Will you be okay by yourself? Amelia nods. You reach out and give her a hug. Don't overthink it. Randy's waiting for you at the next part. Have a happy wedding.
ありがとう。あなたと友達になれたことは私の人生における一番の幸運ね。
What are you talking about? Do you remember the first time I accompanied my foster mother to the Duchess ball?
もちろんよ。大事な人からの手紙が返ってこなくてムカムカしてるとき、養母さんに連れられて参加していたあなたに会ったのよね。
Bringing up the past seems to make Amelia relax a little. When all the rich girls avoided me, you were the only one who stood up, said hello to me, and became my friend.
そうだったの？私はただ慣れない場所で怯えてるあなたが気になっただけよ。
You nod with a smile. Amelia only remembers the kindness of others, rarely remembering how she has helped others. Yeah, it is. So you don't need to thank me. This is what friends should do for each other. Remember to write to me when you and Randy have settled down overseas.
ええ、絶対に書くわ。
Fog City Avenue. After saying goodbye to Amelia, you walk into the bustling streets of Mist City. In your mind, you're wondering why Luke would accept Amelia's kidnapping case. Since your encounter half a year ago, you've been quietly investigating him. Luke opened a detective agency about a year ago. He usually assists the Mist City police with difficult cold cases. In just a few short months, he's become a household name. From his prior cases, he normally wouldn't accept a kidnapping case like Amelia's unless... Regardless of what his motives are, the primary objective is to make sure Amelia leaves Mist City. You force yourself to stop thinking about Luke, but the more you do, the clearer your memory of him becomes. The two of you lived together in a suburban orphanage and were childhood sweethearts who spent every day together. One day, you were adopted by the widow of a rich merchant. The day you left the orphanage, Luke walked you to the train carriage.
そんな落ち込むなって。ちゃんと手紙書くからさ。
Luke helps you stuff your luggage into the space under the seat. Really?
嘘なんかついたことないだろ。
I'll write to you and give you my address when I get to Mist City. Luke reaches out to stroke your hair.
わかった。待ってる。
He smiles, shoving some sweets into your hand. He is about to say something when the train whistle sounds.
じゃあ、俺はもう降りるから、気をつけて行ってこいよ。
Yeah, right back as soon as you get my letter. Luke nods, then gets off the train with the other people who had come to see their loved ones off. The train starts moving and you press yourself against the window to watch Luke gradually fade in the distance. But you never receive any letters from Luke. You don't even know if he received your letters. It was only after months of waiting and worrying that you learned from the dean that he had also been adopted. Why did he leave without even writing a letter? You big fat liar. Your residence. You let your thoughts wander as you make it back home.
お嬢様、お帰りなさいませ。お客様がお見えになっています。探偵をされている方だとか。
Luke came faster than you expected. Has he seen through the charade already? Where is he now?
リビングです。顔色が優れないようですが、日を改めるように伝えましょうか。
No, you can go tend to other matters. Leave us be.
かしこまりました。
You take a deep breath at the entrance and remind yourself that the most important thing is to make sure Emilia leaves Miss City. As for the reason why Luke pretended not to know you, that will have to wait until this matter is settled. Living room. You walk into the living room. Luke has his back to you, looking out the window at the small garden. He turns to look at you, perhaps having heard your footsteps. You met his eyes, and a strange sense of familiarity wells up in your heart. Luke. He seems to notice the overflowing emotions and quickly looks away.
こんにちは。探偵のミナサです。俺は今、ミスター・ジョーンズからの依頼を受け、誘拐されたエミリアお嬢様の行方を追っています。早速ですが、エミリアさんのご友人であるあなたに、いくつか質問をさせてください。
His voice is soft, even kind, but it comes across as cool and polite. But you expected his question, and you proceed as planned, pretending that you don't know. What? Did you say Emilia was kidnapped?
今朝の無都新聞をまだご覧になっていないのですか？
Miss City Daily? Not yet. I went out for a morning walk today and haven't had the chance. Luke looks at you with an inquisitive gaze as if to ascertain the truth of what you just said. Thanks to his professionalism, you abandon the wild thoughts in your heart and commit fully to the act. You look him straight in the eye. His overview of the case is just as you had expected. What's the progress of the investigation? Do you have any leads on who kidnapped Emilia? Luke gives you a long look before gently shaking his head.
現場を調査したところ、多少荒らされてはいたものの、誘拐らしき痕跡はありませんでした。むしろ、彼女は自ら別荘を離れたようにも思います。
You didn't expect Luke to rule out a kidnapping so soon. You wanted to give your testimony about Tweefoy later, but that will have to be moved up.
エミリアさんについてですが、最近何か変わったことはありましたか？
As suspected, Luke starts questioning you. Unusual. I think I heard Emilia mention Tweefoil. Your response prompts a harsh look in Luke's eyes, the aura around him chilling into eyes.
その他に、具体的に何を話していたのか覚えていませんか？
I don't know exactly, but does Emilia's kidnapping have anything to do with Tweefoil? Less is more. You try to keep the clues as vague as possible so as not to arouse unnecessary suspicion. Luke frowns, thinking about something. Even a famous detective would have trouble dealing with Tweefoil. Just when you're about to go all in, Luke suddenly says,
わかりました。情報の提供に感謝します。それと、急にこのような悪い知らせを持ち込んでしまい、申し訳ございません。
He seems to have lost interest in you. He gets up courteously and grabs his head, ready to leave. Are you leaving?
はい。依頼人はお嬢様のことをひどく心配していたので、俺もすぐに次の手がかりを探しに行きます。
You glance at the clock on the wall and see that only half an hour had passed. If Luke confirms that it's not a kidnapping case, it won't take long before he introduces Amelia's whereabouts. For Amelia's sake, I must buy as much time as possible. You grab Luke's shirt without thinking.
どうかしましたか？
Luke adjusts his sleeves and takes a step back to distance himself from you. Sorry, I just wanted to ask if I could join your investigation. Amelia is a good friend of mine and I'm worried about her. You plead with Luke and notice a strange look in his eyes.
俺についてくるということが、必ずしもあなたにとって有益であるとは限りませんよ。
How so? You're the famous detective in Miss City. I'm sure I'll get updates on Amelia's case if I'll stay with you. Luke looks at you hesitantly, then thinks for a moment before agreeing.
わかりました。ですが、今は他にも確認しないといけないことがあるので、1時間後に俺の事務所で会いましょう。
That's settled then. Since we're working together, there's no need to be overly polite.
善処します。では、また1時間後に。
See you in an hour. Detective Agency. An hour finally passes. You walk nervously into Luke's detective agency. Upon entering the door, you are confronted by a middle-aged man dressed like a stableman. You suddenly notice the thin tattoo on his wrist. You feel as if you have seen it somewhere before.
ようこそムトストリート221号へ。
As you are trying to remember where you've seen it before, you are greeted by a wonderful voice that sounded like it belonged to a theater actress. You look back to see a lady dressed in simple clothes with an air of elegance.
こんにちは。私はここのオーナーをしているスタッブスよ。気軽にマダムと呼んでちょうだい。
Hello, Mrs. Stubbs. Mrs. Stubbs is very talkative. Within a few minutes of meeting, she is already asking you a lot of questions.
彼、ミスター・ミナセとはずいぶん古い付き合いなのね。
Did he tell you that?
いいえ、ただの勝手な推測よ。彼、あまり自分のことを話そうとしないでしょ。女性をここに招くのも初めてのことだったから、それだけ他とは違う相手なんだと思っただけよ。
I'm afraid to disappoint, but he doesn't even remember me.
あら、そうなの？もしあなたに本当のことを言えていないのだとしたら、何かしらの事情を抱えているからかもね。
What do you mean by that?
気にしないで。ただの年長者の勘よ。大丈夫。二人の絆が確かなものなら、いずれ元通りになれるわ。
Could Mrs. Stubbs know something? You try to ask, but Mrs. Stubbs winks mysteriously at you as she points to the open door nearby.
あそこが彼の部屋よ。あなたならそのまま通していいと言われてるから、どうぞ入って。
Thank you, Mrs. Stubbs. After thanking Mrs. Stubbs, you lift up your skirt and walk over to Luke's door. A golden light peeps through the door and illuminates the pale dust. You push gently on the door and the gap before your eyes widens silently. The wind blows past the curtains through the open window, scattering the stacks of papers in the room. As noon approaches, you follow the golden light as it falls on Luke's bouncy hair. He is on the ground frowning at something, his chin resting on one hand and his other hand writing a letter rapidly. Luke has never liked working at a desk since childhood, always preferring to write on the floor. This strange yet familiar scene blurs the boundaries of time and space. The person before your eyes overlaps with the young boy you were familiar with in the past. Some habits remain unchanged, no matter how long has passed. The wind picks up a few pieces of paper, one of which you catch with both hands. It turns out to be a thread. At the bottom of the letter is an icon of a trefoil dated 4 years ago. This is a thread letter. Is it from trefoil? But why does Luke have this?
それはダメだ。
Before you know it, Luke is already looking up at you. He seems panicked to see you holding that piece of paper. Sorry, I didn't mean to. You quickly put the piece of paper back and Luke breathes a sigh of relief. He then softens his tone as if realizing that he came off a little too strong.
もう約束の時間になってたんですね。
Yeah, I don't mind waiting outside if you're busy.
いえ、大丈夫です。作業はもう済んでるので。それと、エミリアさんについて、一点いい知らせがあります。
Good news? His words make your heart sink a little, sobering you up. You know that at this moment, no news about Amelia would be the best news. Luke pushes himself up from the ground with both hands. He then stuffed the letter he had just written into a black envelope and put it neatly into his jacket pocket. What's the good news about Amelia? At the moment, you don't care about anything else except for any news of Amelia.
エミリアさんは誘拐されていません。今回の事件は彼女の自作自演かと。
Luke figured out the truth. She orchestrated, but why would she do that? Luke doesn't respond immediately. Instead, he pulls out a piece of paper from the seemingly messy room and hands it to you.
これはエミリアさんとイオン卿の婚約に関する調査報告書です。エミリアさんは伝統的な家柄に生まれたせいで結婚相手を父親が指定する決まりになっていた。ですよね。
Amelia's engagement to Ian was no secret. It's normal for him to find out. You answer cautiously as you inwardly reassure yourself. Yes, Mr. Jones intended for Amelia to get married to Lord Ian.
依頼人はイオン卿の資金難と彼の人格を全て無視し、莫大な礼金を出して彼との婚約を成立させた。つまりこの婚姻は金銭で貴族の身分を買うための取引だったことになる。
Luke finishes with a pause and looks at you calmly. So, you think Amelia staged the kidnapping to escape her marriage to Lord Ian? You conclude it as such after following Luke's line of reasoning, but he shakes his head.
もしそれだけなら、エミリアさんは行動してなかったでしょう。
What do you mean? Luke smiles as he pulls out another investigative report which contains information about Randy.
エミリアさんの親友であるあなたなら、ランディさん。エミリアさんの幼馴染であり、恋人である彼の存在も知ってますよね。
Yeah, I do. Luke's discovery that Amelia and Ian's marriage was a transaction falls within your expectations. But the fact that he figured out Randy and Amelia's relationship in such a short amount of time surprises you. You have a feeling that if he's allowed to continue, it won't be long before he locates Amelia on the resurrection. You subconsciously look at the clock on the wall. Time passes more slowly than you thought. I have to buy time. It's why I insisted on joining Luke's investigation. You think Amelia would be happy in a marriage based on mutual benefit? The question was abrupt, almost a direct admission of knowledge of Amelia's supposed abduction, but you have no choice. But it also seems to surprise Luke, who hesitates for a while before speaking.
俺はあくまでも結婚は愛と相互理解の先にあるものだと思ってます。利益から始まる関係はいずれ必ず悲劇で終わるので。特にエミリアさんのように意中の相手がいるならなおさら、強引にイオン教と結婚したところで破滅以外の結末は想像できません。
It seems we're on the same page on this matter.
俺たち二人がそう思ってるなら、ランディさんもエミリアさんとイオン教の婚約を快く思っていないでしょう。
Luke seems to think of something, and his eyes fixate on you as he slowly approaches you one step at a time. And his words become increasingly alarming.
つまり、彼がエミリアさんのために危険な行動に出る可能性は高い。例えば、誘拐事件を偽装して駆け落ちをする、など。
You suspect Randy? That's impossible. You dismiss his reasoning out of reflex before realizing that doing so was suspicious.
どうしてありえないんです？
Sensing your panic, Luke quietly walks up to you. Your heart skips a beat as you stiffly look away. He slowly bends down and puts his hands on the arms of the sofa on either side of you, looking down at you. An unfamiliar sense of pressure momentarily holds you down.
答えてください。どうしてランディさんはありえないんですか？
Luke repeats his question again, and he's soon noticeably colder than before. You bite your lip. The pain brings you back to your senses as your brain starts working again. As Amelia's friend, you know that knowing about Randy's whereabouts makes sense, and you can't afford to be distracted. You take a deep breath and respond to Luke. Because Randy left Miss City on his own after Mr. Jones forced them to break up.
つまり、エミリアさんを援助している人間は他にいると。一体、その人物は誰なんでしょうね。十分に状況を理解しているだけでなく、エミリアさんとランディさんに同情を示している人物。
Luke leads the conversation with ease, as if he has seen through everything. You stare at Luke, your fingers subconsciously digging into the sofa, which leaves a few marks. With no way out, you decide to take a gamble. You offered vague clues that Tweefoil was responsible for kidnapping Amelia, but Luke didn't take a bite. You have prepared this plan in detail before, and now it's time to carry it out. How are you so certain that Amelia wasn't kidnapped? I gave you information about Tweefoil, but you ignore it. Or are you deliberately guiding the investigation away from it to cover up for Tweefoil? Luke does not show the surprised expression you expected, but a complicated one. He loosens his hands from the arms of the sofa and stands up with his head down in thought. The faint sense of pressure that he had brought had dissipated, only leaving a speechless silence.
ダブルリーフがどんな組織か知ってるんですか？
Why did Luke ask that all of a sudden? The papers all say that Tweefoil is an illegal organization that specializes in brutal revenge against aristocrats.
他には？
And I heard that its members are very cunning, evading police capture to this day. Hearing your answer, Luke narrows his eyes with a hint of sadness in his eyes.
ダブルリーフの由来についてはご存知ですか？
Luke seems to be attached to Trefoil, but the concern has nothing to do with Amelia's case. But the more he talks, the longer the investigation is delayed, and the safer Amelia will be. No, I don't.
でしょうね。ダブルリーフの由来が報道されたことなんてないですし、誰もそんな組織の詳細なんて気にしてませんから。新聞社が欲しいのは注目が集まるようなビッグニュースであり、彼らが気にしてるのは売り上げだけ。
His almost mournful statements tug at your heartstrings. You can't help imagining the intricate connection between Trefoil and Luke. That idea strikes fear in your heart. Luke,
一つ物語を聞いてくれますか？
huh? Oh, okay.
20年ぐらい前、ベカロンには仮想階級出身の法律家の青年がいて、彼はよく市民のために無償で裁判に参加していました。そしてすぐに平民の権利を侵害している人間が現地の貴族であることに気づき、貴族に対抗するための組織ダブルリーフを創立しました。
You're saying that Trefoil was founded to protect the interests of Bickelon commoners? Luke gives you a long look, then nods bitterly. Then why would the papers claim that Trefoil is an illegal organization that specializes in brutal revenge against aristocrats?
事実そうだからです。怨恨と呼んでいいほどの憎しみのせいで、一部の人間が組織の初心を忘れ、過激な手段で貴族への報復を繰り返しているんです。彼らのせいでダブルリーフは誰もが怖がる犯罪組織へと変貌してしまいました。
His tone is heavy, weeping blood with every word. And the leader who founded Trefoil didn't do anything about it? At the mention of the leader, Luke pauses for a moment. A look of sadness and nostalgia crosses his face.
撃てなかったんです。当時、彼はすでに重い病気を抱えていて、そばには一人の養子と信頼できる数人の部下しかいなかった。
Adopted son?
ねえ。リーダーは息を引き取る直前、ダブルリーフの汚名を注いでほしいと、その養子に全てを託しました。
And then what happened? Did the adopted son do it?
行動はしてますが、それだけです。養父を埋葬してから3年、彼はダブルリーフの過激分子を粛清し続けてきた。けれど、各地にはまだまだ残党がいて、今もその活動は終わっていません。だから彼は手段を変え、組織を沈静化させることを優先した。すると現に、世間は少しずつダブルリーフの暴行を忘れていった。
So that's why Trefoil disappeared from the face of the earth 4 years ago. Luke nods, although he said in advance that this was just a story, you believe every word of it is the truth. You're unsure if it's just your imagination, but it almost seems like he has a lot of sympathy for Trefoil. But how do you know so much about Trefoil? It sounds like he's speaking from personal experience.
ここ数年、ずっとダブルリーフのことを調べてきましたからね。他にも色々と知ってますよ。例えば、組織に隠された情報とか。
What kind of hidden information? You tense up.
犯行に及ぶ際、ダブルリーフは必ず脅迫状を残すんです。
A threat letter? You suddenly remember the letter you saw earlier. Could that have been a threat letter from Tweefoil?
はい。しかもご丁寧に、ダブルリーフの署名付きで。エミリアさんが最後にいた部屋には、それが残されていませんでした。
You finally understand why Luke didn't investigate Tweefoil. He never found a threat letter at the scene. But where did Luke learn this information? The newspapers never reported it. As you push back the thoughts in your mind, another idea pops up. What if you go to the scene of the crime and plant a threat letter? That would make it even more convincing that Amelia's kidnapping was the work of Tweefoil. What if they missed it while searching the crime scene? You try to understate the question so it won't arouse suspicion. Luke then follows your reasoning.
ないとは言い切れません。一応俺と警察が何度も現場を調査してきましたが、見落としだけは誰にでも起こり得ますからね。あなたが気になるようなら、もう一度現場に行って調査してみますか。
You didn't expect Luke to agree with your idea, even offering to visit the crime scene again. But things are progressing so smoothly that it makes you uneasy. You have no other choice though. You glance at the clock on the wall, 2 more hours before the ship sets sail. I have to buy time until reservation sets sail. But before that, you need to handle Luke and forge a threat letter. Detective Agency. As you're wondering how to get Luke out of the room, Mrs. Stubbs walks in with thee. She looks surprised when she sees Luke put on a hat.
どこかに出かけるの？
はい。少し用事がありまして。
With that, Luke hands the letter in a black envelope to Mrs. Stubbs.
マダム・スタッブス。この手紙を、ムト新聞の編集長、ミスター・デイビスに渡してもらえますか。
Mrs. Stubbs sees the envelope and teases Luke.
黒い封筒ね。また大きな山なの？
Luke smiles tenderly, not confirming or denying anything.
マダム、この件をお願いできるのは、あなたしかいません。
Luke's compliment is well received by Mrs. Stubbs.
名探偵にそこまで言われたら、私もノーとは言えないわね。いいわ。必ず彼に届けてあげる。
With that, Mrs. Stubbs puts the tea on the coffee table by the sofa and hurries out of the room. Luke shakes his head helplessly, then turns to look at you.
それじゃあ、馬車を呼んでくるので、ここで待っててください。
Sure. Luke goes out first to call a carriage as if to give you a chance. After confirming that Luke is gone, you hurry to find the piece of paper that flew into your hands. Sure enough, it is a threat letter. You quickly write a letter mimicking the words and the Tweefoil image at the end. As you blow on the ink to dry it, you suddenly hear Luke's footsteps approaching. He's back. You quickly hide the letter behind you and turn to face him.
行きましょう。馬車の用意ができました。
Oh, okay. Perhaps sensing your unnatural expression, Luke walks over to cover your forehead with his hand. A cool fragrance creeps into your skin, making your face red and your ears hot. Oh, what's the matter?
顔が赤い。けど、熱じゃなさそうだ。
Of course not. It just felt a little stuffy here. Just let's go get some fresh air and I'll be fine. Luke looks worriedly at you as if he wants to say something. In the end, he just turns around. You follow behind him, stuffing the letter into your jacket pocket. Phew, that was close. The carriage takes you to Amelia's villa. The guard at the entrance doesn't stop the carriage when he sees Luke. Amelia's bedroom. The two of you go into the back room of Amelia's suite, the bedroom. The place is a mess just like the night you helped her escape. You look around for a good place to hide the letter, somewhere not too obvious but out of sight. Preferably somewhere that a woman might search. You think for a moment and spot Amelia's makeup case. If I hide it there, they wouldn't be surprised if they miss it at the first time. While Luke is observing the windowsill, you carefully move over to the dresser and take out the thread letter. Suddenly, a figure approaches you, which you subconsciously try to avoid. The end result is you almost tripping over yourself. Ah! Your body falls back, involuntarily resigned to the pain of the fall. The next moment, however, you are pulled into a cool embrace by a powerful force. The forged thread letter is yanked out of your hands. Don't look at that! Your protest had no effect as Luke opens up the letter. A complicated expression flashes across his eyes.
やっぱりな。
Look, I can explain. He stares into your eyes. His familiar eyes reflect the panic and guilt in yours. You subconsciously want to look away, but Luke holds your chin and forces you to look into his eyes. The eyes that were once filled with scrutiny have been replaced by a harsh and cold look. For the first time, you feel that the person standing before you might not be the Luke you know.
この後に及んで、あなたの話を聞く必要がどこにあると。最初はただ、二人の計画を知っているだけだと思ってました。けど、あなたが何度も俺にダブルリーフの調査を促してくるうちに、あなたも計画に参加しているんだと疑うようになった。
So you told me about the threat letter on purpose? Luke tightens his grip on your chin until you feel a tingling sensation.
ええ。でないとあなたはいつまでもデタラメを言い、時間稼ぎを続けていたでしょう。
The stalemate of a staring contest is still ongoing, but you are already exhausted. An inexplicable mix of emotions seizes your truth, accompanied by rage and an unwillingness to relent. Now that you have proof, what now? Are you gonna arrest me and interrogate me to find out Amelia's whereabouts? You struggle to break free from Luke's grip, but the more you resist, the tighter his grip gets. This leaves very little room in between your bodies as your breath converges uncontrollably with his. His mournful sigh is hot, almost burning in your ear.
どうしてダブルリーフを装ったりしたんです？
Instead of waiting for an answer, Luke continues with his interrogation.
あなたは、警察が未だにダブルリーフのことを追っていることを知ってますか？加えて、彼らの懸賞金がどれだけの額なのかも。もし今日ここで、あなたの偽装を見つけたのが警察だったらどうなっていたか、想像できます？あなたは間違いなく、ダブルリーフの一員として逮捕され、尋問され、ありもしない罪を着せられていたでしょうね。自分のことは自分で守ると約束したはず。なのに、どうして自分から危険に身をさらそうとするんだ。
Luke suppresses his anger as he questions you, but from his eyes, you feel that he is more concerned than angry. Luke, are you worried about me?
俺は、
Luke bursts into a coughing fit as if something had suddenly triggered it. You put your arms around him, patting his back to ease his coughing.
何を。
The sudden intimacy catches him off guard, and he subconsciously tries to push you away. His movements knock a vase off the table, the shattering noise reverberating in your ears. Hurried knocks sound at the door.
水瀬探偵、どうしました？大丈夫ですか？入らせていただきます。
いい、入るな。
ですが、
入るなと言ったはずだ。
わかりました。失礼いたします。
The door closes once more, but Luke's body is still tense, his forehead full of sweat. Luke, what happened? I'll go call a doctor. You try to let go of Luke, but he holds onto you tightly as if he is struggling with something other than himself. His eyes are bloodshot and his consciousness is blurred by the intense pain.
医者はダメだ。
Luke breathes heavily into your ear like a heat wave burning your skin. Fine, I won't. At least tell me what I can do to help. Luke only responds with agonized breathing. Luke. You gently soothe his back and try to lift him up from the ground to sit somewhere more comfortable. But Luke thinks you are trying to lift him and hugs you even tighter, as if he wants to melt you into his flesh.
行かないでくれ。俺が悪かったから。
Those words, is Luke talking to me? I won't go. I'll stay by your side. Hearing your promise, Luke seems to calm down, his tense body relaxing a little. What happened to Luke in the time we were apart? Why would he suddenly... After some time, Luke's labored breathing gradually softens. He loosens his grip on you and awkwardly distances himself from you.
驚かせてしまって申し訳ない。
I'm fine. How are you feeling? Luke sighs.
古傷が痛んだことによる軽い発作なのでご心配なく。
You really want to ask about Luke's injury, but you know it's not your place to ask. He never admitted to knowing you, which makes you strangely upset.
俺の体を心配する前に、あなたは自分のことを心配した方がいい。
Having recovered from his episode, Luke instantly takes control of the situation once more. Worried about myself?
あなたはエミリアさんの誘拐事件に関与していただけじゃなく、彼女とランディさんの駆け落ちに加担し、証拠品の偽造にも手を染めた。事件の共犯者となった今、今後どういう扱いを受けるかは想像できるでしょう。
I hadn't considered that much. You rack your brain for the better part of a month to come up with Amelia's escape plan, not giving any thought to what would happen to you after it's all over. You answer Luke's sudden question honestly.
俺が助けてあげますよ。
Luke's words are mixed with helplessness, which is quickly followed by the whistle of the resurrection setting sail coming from the outside the window. Staring at his worried face, you'd completely forgotten about the time. It takes you a while to realize the hour hand had already struck past 3 in the afternoon, which means that the resurrection is leaving with Amelia on board. Your plan work.
まさか、エミリアさんが武藤を離れたからといって、安心できると思ってませんよね。
You knew that Amelia would leave by boat?
エミリアさん、イオン卿、ランディさん。この3人の関係を調べた時から、なんとなく察しはついてましたよ。
Either way, Emilia is now free to pursue her own happiness. And you finally have the time to explore the person in front of you. Hearing this, Luke looks at you with a smirk on his face.
自分の計画に一つ見落としがあることに、まだ気づいていないんですか？
Emilia's bedroom. You thought it was all over now that Emilia has sailed out of Mist City, but Luke mentions a heavy flaw in your plan. What flaw?
もしイオン卿がエミリアさんとランディさんの駆け落ちに気づいたら、彼は黙っていると思いますか？
What Luke said worries you. If he can deduce the truth, then the police will soon figure out what happened. Which means either way, Ian will learn that Emilia and Randy eloped. Ian's family has been in Bacolod for hundreds of years. Although they are not as powerful as they once were, if he really wanted to seek revenge, it would make Emilia and Randy's life very difficult in the future. Even you would be affected. With Lord Ian's ego, he will surely retaliate. You resign yourself to telling the truth. Fortunately, Emilia and Randy will be married and settled abroad by then, so don't worry.
ならあなたは、二人の計画に手を貸したんです。二人を捕らえられなかったイオン卿の怒りは、間違いなくあなたに向くでしょう。
We'll just have to wait and see. My mother doesn't have anyone else but me, so I can't leave Mist City.
さっき言いましたよね。俺が助けるって。
Luke says that as if it needs no explanation, which overlaps with the image of the young boy you knew. But why would you help me? Luke looks down to avoid your gaze, knowing that he won't give you the answer you wish to hear. You still hope deep down in your heart that he will.
今はまだ、それを教える時じゃない。それに、まずは対策を話し合う方が先です。
His words remind you of what Mr. Stubbs said before. Luke must have his reason for not revealing his identity. Now that Amelia is safely out of the way, I can focus on Luke. Okay, what's your plan? Luke takes the threat letter you forged and stuffed it into the bottom of the makeup case.
俺の考えてる計画は、あなたの計画を続行することです。
He then takes out another piece of paper and writes, "Since you don't care about your fiancé, we will have to break you." Then he draws the threefold image at the bottom of the letter with ease. What are you? After gently blowing on it to dry it, Luke folds it into the size of his palm. He then stuffs it into his pocket, patting it before he looks at you.
あなたが今回の件をダブルリーフと結びつけようとしてたのは、一体どうしてです？
I wanted Ian to believe that Threefold was responsible for kidnapping Amelia. That way, the police will investigate the conflict between Ian and Threefold.
まあ、考え方自体は悪くないと思います。が、修正は必要です。
What might it tweak?
ダブルリーフは、脅迫状をターゲットにしか送らない。
Are you saying that Threefold would have left the threat letter with Ian?
はい。そうすることで初めて脅迫状の効力が発揮されますからね。
But will a single letter have that much power?
いや、もちろん脅迫状は最初の一歩に過ぎません。俺には熱心な友人がいて、タイミングよくイオン卿のスキャンダルを見つけてくれたんです。で、さらに都合のいいことに、無都新聞がそのスキャンダルを追っていた。もしそれらの記事が出来上がった場合、イオン卿はエミリアの家からもらった金で もみ消す予定だったんでしょ
But now that Amelia has been kidnapped, Mr. Jones won't come out with the money to help Ian.
う。つまり、今が最高のタイミングってわけです。うまくいきさえすれば、明日の朝にはイオン教の記事が新聞の一面を飾ることになる。ただ一点、これらの効果を高めるためには、あなたの助けが必要になります。
What do you need me to do? Luke pauses for a moment and then looks away in embarrassment.
俺のパートナーとして、一緒にイオン教の舞踏会に出席してください。
Ian is holding a ball?
俺側の情報筋によれば、もう始まってる頃でしょう。
How can he be in the mood for a ball when Amelia's been kidnapped?
むしろ、彼女が誘拐されたと知って、率先して舞踏会を開催していたそうですよ。巨額の礼金を用意してくれる、次の財布を見つけるためにね。
You sigh and nod in agreement. That sounds exactly like what Lord Ian will do. Luke's plan is to implicate Ian directly in the kidnapping of Amelia. But he only needs to expose Ian's scandal to put him in a predicament. Why go so far as to plant a threat letter on Ian? Is he doing everything for me, or is there another reason? And what's with his old injury? The more you interact with Luke, the more mysteries arise. Luke, how many secrets are you hiding from me? Dance venue. By the time you and Luke reach Ian's estate, the ball had already started some time ago. You take Luke's arm and walk into the gorgeous ball, the dancing crystal light fixtures blinding you. Lord Ian is dancing with a gorgeous woman at the center of the dance floor. He's been on the dance floor this whole time, so we can't approach him.
大丈夫。この曲が終わった後、どうにか近づいて、服に手紙を忍ばせます。
You nod as you watch the movements on the dance floor. Unfortunately, at the end of the song, Ian doesn't leave the dance floor. Instead, he invites another target to dance. Luke stares at Lord Ian, frowning. Looks like Ian is planning on staying on the dance floor. Will it be difficult to slip a threat letter into his pocket without him noticing?
ええ。不測の事態が起きないよう、なるべく早く済ませましょう。
If Lord Ian won't leave the dance floor, then we may as well go in and find him.
まあ、それも一つの手ですが。残念ながら、俺はダンスが得意じゃありません。準備もなく踊ったところで、あなたが恥をかくだけかと。
Seeing Luke frown, you can't help but think of the dance you attended with him in the orphanage. He had the same difficult look on his face, unwilling to participate, even insisting that he disliked dancing. Only later, when you lied to him that you had no dance partner, did he immediately invite you.
ごめん、またお前の足を。
It's fine. Overall, there's not a big problem, but there's one dance step that you keep missing.
俺には本当にダンスの才能がないのかもな。
Luke sighs helplessly as if he is dragging you down. Well, there is one way. If you can't adapt to the dance steps, let the dance steps adapt to you.
どういうことだ？
Just follow my lead. You follow Luke's habits, quietly improving his strong dance steps so he won't have to forcibly correct them. After several tries, Luke finally learns the dance moves. On the day of the ball, the music, crystal chandelier, and dresses, everything is just right. Luke keeps inviting you to dance until the two of you react on instinct when the melody starts. As the memory fades toward the end of the song, an idea suddenly pops into your mind. You look at Luke, who is still anxious with his lips pursed. This song might be a little difficult, but you should be fine with a familiar song. Much to Luke's surprise, you walk straight over to the band. Dance venue. When the familiar country song is played, many people on the dance floor stop and listen. Certainly, a country tune may be a little vulgar to those aristocrats, but its vibrant melody still attracts many people to the dance floor.
この曲は、
You know it, right? It was popular when I was young. You stare at Luke and slowly extend your hand back facing up. Detective Pierce, won't you ask me to dance? He freezes for a moment, lifting his hand and leading you over to the dance floor. You stand opposite him, the two of you staring at each other across a narrow corridor.
何年も踊ってないので、多分、ステップとかも、ほとんど忘れてると思いますよ。
It's fine, just follow my lead. Just like in the past. As the melody of the violin circles the dance floor, you each take a step toward each other. Touching hands, the two of you follow the rhythm, moving all over the dance floor. From time to time, Luke's faint fragrance reaches your nose, and the touch of his fingertips sends slight tremors through your body. But his dance steps are very precise, not missing a single beat. Did I mistake him for someone else? Slowly, the two of you approach Lord Ian. Luke takes your hand and spins you around, then back. When no one is looking, he leans over and whispers in your ear. In the eyes of others, it is the sight of two lovers who can't keep their hands off each other.
次の小説が始まったら、俺が動きます。あなたは、そのまま踊りを続けててください。
You go through the dance steps in your head and decide that it's too dangerous for Luke to plant the threat letter. However, it is the perfect chance for you to get closer to Ian. Luke, listen, it would be easier for me to plant the threat letter in this country dance routine.
ですが、
You and Luke step forward at the same time toward the objective, Lord Ian. Worried that I'll mess up?
そうでは。
Worried about getting me involved? Luke doesn't respond. In a few moments, you will be dancing with Lord Ian. This is our last chance. Give it to me.
危険すぎる。俺が何とかします。
Luke stubbornly refuses as the two of you take each other's arms and spins. When he isn't looking, you grab the thread letter from his pocket and turn to part from him.
待って。
Luke tries to reach out to stop you, but it's already too late. You stand in front of Lord Ian. He doesn't seem to remember you at all, just nodding at you politely. You stuff the folded letter Luke prepared into Lord Ian's pocket as planned. Soon the dance routine takes you back to Luke, still flustered as he grips your hand tight. Under the crystal chandelier, you and Luke cross hands in an intimate and firm posture. The moving melody seems to accompany the loving kisses that could last a lifetime. But you know Luke's calm and unwavering eyes are filled with rich emotions which are conveyed to you through the palm of your hand. His thoughts are as clear as that. He isn't angry, just concerned.
今の行動がどれだけ危険なことか、ちゃんと理解してるんですか？万が一あの場で悟られていたら、今度こそ終わってたかもしれないんですよ。
His words were accompanied by hot breath that pierces your neck, seeping into your body to sear your heart. Well, it's all worked out, didn't it?
次またそんなことをしたら、
Seeing Luke about to start nagging again, you look up at him, your breath interchanging with his. He instinctively wants to lean back, but the firm grip of your hand prevents any attempt to move away from you. Luke, come dance with me. Hearing this, Luke widened his eyes in surprise as they overflow with strange emotions. You wonder if he's thinking about that dance all those years ago when he similarly led you to dance.
わかりました。
This is probably the first unbridled moment since your reunion with Luke that you can stare at him. He has broad shoulders, looking tall and slim in a well-tailored suit. His glasses obscure the agility of his youth, but they add some maturity and poise.
何か？
The ends of Luke's hair shake slightly because of the dance, and his cheeks are flushed with red. Because I'm wondering, what are the secrets you're keeping from me?
俺は。
The melody of the dance is once again closer to the dance move that Luke kept getting wrong. You hadn't noticed his mistakes before. It is said that one can perfectly control one's movements with rationale. But what if he was distracted? Only for a moment, instinct will take over. When the next rotation of dance partners is about to start before you turn away from Luke, you deliberately throw yourself at him, and he subconsciously reaches out to you, thinking that you're going to fall.
危ない！
You reach over his arm, throwing your arm over his shoulders, planting a kiss on his cheek. You don't give Luke any time to react, twirling the hemline of your skirt over his calf and moving to the other side. Luke, lost in the crowd, searches desperately for you, and you know that he's a complete mess. The face of indifference is now replaced by an unnatural redness, his feet following the dance steps instinctively. Luke, you know how to dance our dance, right? You pray silently in your heart. The melody gradually approaches the critical moment, and you slowly approach Luke. The moment your hands touch his, you finally see him dance the steps. Your tense nerves finally relax at this moment. You look up just to catch Luke's piercing gaze.
さっきのは、どういうつもりですか？
Luke's face is still flush red, having yet to recover from the shock of the kiss. It was a decision that happened in the spur of the moment, but Luke's earnest question causes your cheeks to burn. Perhaps he read something else in your hesitation, his flushed cheeks turning pale once more.
俺のことを、あなたの探してる人だと思うことにしたんですか？あなたはもう、彼のことを待つつもりはないと。
Luke looks at you in disappointment, as if he has suffered a great grievance. A wicked idea comes to mind at the thought that he kept pretending not to know you. Yeah, no one will wait forever in the same place for another person. Besides, I've waited 8 years, and I don't even know if he's coming back. You look at Luke, trying to ignore the sadness in his eyes. People have to move on, don't you think? Luke doesn't respond, looking dejected, every millimeter of his feather-like eyelashes visible through his glasses. You can feel his internal struggle, but you lost interest in bullying him quickly. Luke, do you really think you can keep it from me?
どういう意味です？
You lean forward slightly closer to his ear. Your down steps give you away.
ステップ？
Yeah, I'll admit you did pretty well controlling your steps. But when I kissed you just now, you got distracted and took your mind off the steps.
ボロ。
You're not sure what Luke is thinking at this moment, but the tips of his ears turn red. Not wanting to give him time to react, you continue. Remember, that's the down step that you kept getting wrong. I changed it up a little to help you get through the dance, and that's the step you missed. And I've ever only taught those dance steps to one person. That is to say, there is no one else in the world who knows it except Luke. Staring at Luke, you take a deep breath and slowly pop the question. Luke, after all this, are you still going to avoid me?
欲張ってお前に会うべきじゃないって最初から分かってたのにな。
You can feel Luke's heavy breath on your neck, which makes your heart tremble. You finally admitted it.
お前が十分な証拠を見せた以上、俺も罪を認めて受け入れるしかないだろ。
And you promise not to hide anything from me again? He looks at you with the bright smile you know so well, like the moon shining through the clouds.
ああ、約束するよ。
At the end of the song, Luke takes your hand and quietly leaves the dance floor. Behind you, the ball continues without a missing beat, the next song already playing. The matter with Amelia is over, and you look at Luke. But the final mystery remains in your mind. Why on earth did Luke hide his identity from you? Hawk City Avenue. A slight fog rises in the drizzle on Mid City Avenue at night, illuminated by the warm yellow street lamp. You and Luke walk side by side, enjoying the unique scenery of Mid City, a romantic walk in the rain. His palms are warm against the night chill, and you are immersed in the joy of reunion. However, the fog between the two of you has yet to disappear, and his behavior has been too suspicious. You always think you're close to the answer, but it slips away at the last minute. If you don't figure it out, the real Luke will never come back to me. You take a deep breath of the fresh Mist City air in the rain and decide that you will accept him no matter what it turns out to be.
俺とダブルリーフの関係について考えてるのか？
Huh? How did you know? Luke doesn't answer your question directly, but looks up at the night sky over Mist City. The drizzle splatters on his face, seemingly covering it in a layer of fog which makes it hard to see. Suddenly, he turns to look into your eyes, as if they have been soaked by rain, bright and wet.
それ以外に、俺があんな嘘をつく理由は思いつかないだろ。
That's true. Should you be surprised? Luke is a famous detective in Mid City after all. He can see right through you.
もし、俺がダブルリーフの人間だと言ったら、お前は、俺を怖がるか？
Though you were prepared, it still catches you by surprise when Luke says it out loud. Deep in your heart, you can't connect him to the organization that has committed such unforgivable sins. Sensing your hesitation, Luke lets go of your hand, then smiles helplessly.
気にすんな。 お前の思ったままに答えればいい。もう、隠し事はしないって約束したからな。
Luke's sorrowful tone makes your heart ache. You take his arms and meet his confused gaze. If you're asking me if I'm afraid of Tweefall, the answer is yes.
だよな。
But if you're asking me if I'm afraid of you, then the answer is no. Never in a million years.
けど、俺が、
You cover Luke's mouth with your hand to stop him from continuing. I trust you, Luke, and I ask that you trust me. Luke takes your hand and gently pulls it down, tightly grasping it in his hand.
雨が強くなってきたな。家に帰ったら、俺のすべてをお前に教えるよ。
Okay. Detective Agency. The carriage takes the two of you back to the detective agency at 221 Mississippi Avenue. This is the place where Luke works and where he rests. The neighborhood is quiet at night and Mrs. Stubbs has probably gone to bed already. Luke turns on the light. Under the dim glow, the rain on his hair reflects the stars. You sit in the same place as you did during the day, and on the same table are the refreshments prepared by Mrs. Stubbs.
ダブルリーフの件はどうする？今日はもう遅いし、明日でも。
I'm ready right now.
わかった。
Luke tries to say something several times, but the words don't come out. In the end, he unbuttons his tie and shirt. He looks down to reveal his smooth neck. Looming below it is a Tweeford tattoo similar to the mark on the wrist of the man you saw earlier. This is a Tweeford tattoo?
なあ。メンバーになる際、全員が体に彫るもんだ。お前が引き取られた後、俺もすぐに引き取られてな。
I know, they didn't tell me you were adopted by a teacher.
先生ってのは表向きの身分で、正体は俺を後継者に育てようとしてたダブルリーフのリーダーだ。
So you were the leader's adopted son from that story. Hearing the truth from Luke's lips, your hand moves by itself to touch the tattoo on the back of his neck. The unexpected caress makes Luke subconsciously resist, but he endures it in the end. The young boy in the story was burdened with the sins of the organization and the hopes of his father. He fought hard against everything that life threw at him. You can't imagine what kind of bloodshed he experienced in those years to get to where he is today. Is that where he got his old injury from? Before you can ask, Luke takes a deep breath, turns his head and speaks with great difficulty.
前に話した通り、俺はこの3年で組織の過半数を粛清してきた。その過程で何人かの残党がこの無都に逃げ込んだんだ。
So that's when you came to Miss City a year ago?
まあな。ここで探偵として働くようになったのも、隠れた奴らの情報を集めるためだ。そして、俺が敵である以上、あいつらは、貴族を相手にする時の100倍以上、残忍な手段で対抗してくる。
The distant sound of rain grows louder, making Luke's voice sound as distant as his blood-stained pulse is from yours. When we ran into each other on the street 6 months ago, did you pretend not to know me to protect me? Luke nods with an apologetic look on his face.
ごめん。あの時は、誰に尾行されててもおかしくない状況で、もし奴らに関係を知られたら、お前にも危険が及ぶと。それに、俺にはまだ果たすべき責任が残っていたから、再会するにしても、 今じゃないと思ったんだ。
How about now? You take Luke's hand, hoping to get an answer from him. He shakes his head honestly.
俺の計画では、もちろん今はベストじゃない。
What was your plan then?
そうだな。何一つ憂いのない穏やかな日に、お前の大好きな花束を用意して、お前が住んでる家を訪ねる。それから、何も知らないお前に向かって、開口一番、遊びに行こうって誘うんだ。
I didn't know you were so corny. He seems to amuse himself with the idea, a smile appearing on the corners of his lips.
お前を事務所に呼んだ時はまだ、他人のふりにほころびが生じるなんて思ってなかったんだ。だから事件が終わるまで、お前をそばに置いても問題ないと判断したんだ。けど今考えると、隠す気がないような言動が多かった気がする。お前を前にすると、冷静でいられなくなるのかもな。
But your acting was great when we met 6 months ago.
あれはただ準備ができてただけで。遭遇した際の対処法を前もって考えておいたんだ。
What do you mean?
俺が初めてムトに来た日、すでにお前を見かけていたんだよ。あの時お前はエミリアさんと一緒に湖がある公園で遊んでて、俺は近くの木陰に立ち、日が沈むまで二人を眺めてた。
You just watch? He knows what you mean and smiles helplessly.
お前の世界が平穏で安全なのに対し、俺は常に危険と隣り合わせだった。そんな状態でお前に近づけるわけもないからな。だから、せめて遠くから見守ることにしたんだ。
Luke. You know Luke did everything to keep you safe, but personally, you just wanted to see him the moment he returned. But those were your own thoughts. Do you know how much I've missed you over the years?
もちろんわかってる。半年前に再会した時も、重々思い知らされたからだ。お前の目が、歓喜から失望に変わっていく様を。その一つ一つを、俺は、目の前で見てたんだ。ごめん。お前が悲しんでるって分かってるのに、そばにいてやれなくて。
Luke looks down. The rain outside the window is coming down even harder. The longer he stands in the shadows, the lonelier he seems. The restless nights that plagued him when he lost his father and was forced to face the chaos in Trefoil. Was Luke as lonely as he looked right now? You walk over and hug him lovingly.
どうした？
Luke, let bygones be bygones.
そうだな。
Luke returns the hug and makes a promise while rubbing your hand. But now, I have 3 questions that I hope you will answer honestly.
もちろん。
You let go of Luke, the warm light envelops and separates the two of you from the darkness. First question, why were you in so much pain in Amelia's place? Recalling how much pain he was in sent shivers down your spine.
4年前、組織内の過激分子と争ってた時に負った傷が原因だよ。落ち着いていれば平気なんだけど、あの時は、お前が脅迫状を偽造するとは思ってなくて、慌てすぎた結果、発作につながったんだ。
We'll go get it checked out at the hospital tomorrow. I can't rest assured until I hear it from a doctor.
わかった。お前の言う通りにする。 二つ目の質問は？
The second question has to do with Amelia. You've already guessed how things started, but there are lingering doubts about the end. Did you take on Amelia's kidnapping case because of me?
ああ、お前とエミリアさんが友達なのは知ってたから、お前が巻き込まれるのを心配して、ミスター・ジョーンズに自薦したんだ。あと、お前の同伴を許可したのも、お前に近づきたいっていう感情の他に、その方が、お前を守りやすいと思ったからだ。でもまさか、お前がここまで大胆で、巻き込まれるどころか首謀者側だったなんてな。とはいえ、感謝はしてるよ。最後にもう一度、親父のやり方で、悪事を働く貴族に対価を払わせることができた。
So, did you go through the trouble of planting a threat letter on Ian to show your father that the sins of Tweeful have been washed away?
まあな。大したことじゃないけど、せめてもの手向けってやつだ。
Luke extends his fingers and waves it in front of you.
じゃあ、最後の質問だな。
Your cheeks are burning before you can even ask the third question. But you still stare at Luke, looking straight into his eyes as you ask. Finally, was I ever a part of your future plans? Hearing your question, Luke seems to realize something as his face also turns red. Looking away, he presses the back of his hand to his cheek to cool off. After a while, he turns back to look at you and speaks solemnly.
いるよ。これから先の1分1秒。すべてにな。でも、俺にはまだすべきことが。親父を支えてきた部下たちを解放するって仕事が残ってる。
Arrangements? Are you going to disband Weefoy? Nodding, Luke adds.
そうだ。洗い流すことのできない罪を犯してしまった以上、ダブルリーフが今後親父の望んでいた形に戻ることはない。それに親父の初心は、この探偵事務所にも引き継がれてるからな。俺は探偵として、これからも市民を助けていくつもりだ。ただ、完全にダブルリーフを事務所に合併させるには、あと2ヶ月ちょっとの時間が必要になる。
Luke looks at you, his eyes gleaming with light, his lips unable to hide a happy smile.
だから、もう2ヶ月、俺を待っててくれないか。
You put your arms around Luke's neck and smile while nodding your head. Of course, what's 2 more months when I've already waited 8 years?
それじゃあ、すべてが済んだら、すぐに会いに行くな。
Yeah, and don't forget the flowers.
ああ、約束だ。
Luke smiles back at you as if he hadn't disappeared for the last 8 years. The lamp flickers several times, reminding you of the dark night. But neither of you wants to stop, as if to make up for lost times. You've already made me wait 8 years. I don't want to wait another days.
なら、
Luke doesn't seem to expect that answer and looks at you with bewilderment. Dummy, aren't you gonna ask me for help? I think I can handle routine work at the detective agency.
当たり前だろ。お前は、この名探偵を任した無冠の王なんだから。
Luke smiles back at you as if he hadn't disappeared for the last 8 years. The lamp flickers several times, reminding you of the dark night. But neither of you wants to stop, as if to make up for lost times.
よく来たな。ちょうどよかった。一緒に散歩でも行くか？
Luke's brooch looks familiar.
ん？胸のブローチが気になるか？見覚えあるだろ？
Yeah, it feels like I've seen the key on it somewhere.
お前も知ってるぞ。なんせモチーフは孤児院でよく遊んでた屋根裏部屋の鍵だからな。
Eh? Why did you model it after that key?
あの屋根裏部屋には二人の思い出がたくさんあるから。思い入れがあるんだ。もし離れ離れになってもこれをつけてれば俺たちの思い出をすぐ思い出せるだろ。
Amelia messaged me for the first time a month after she left Miss City. I can finally realize now that she and Randy have settled down overseas. Now I spend my days at Luke's office helping him organize his cases. Luke, your hat's getting old. Why don't we go buy a new one?
いいね。この帽子は親父に言われて買ったものなんだ。ベカロンの紳士なら持ってないとダメだってな。
I see. Well, we can buy another one similar to this. A black letter. I remember Stubb said a black letter represents something important. Luke, did you accept a big kiss recently?
いや、どうしてそう思ったんだ？
Why would you need a black letter if not for a big kiss? Let me see the recipient. Wait, why is it me?
お前に宛てた手紙だからな。当然名前はお前だ。
But why a letter? We see each other every day, so you can just tell me in person.
面と向かうとなかなか言えそうになくてな。手紙で伝えることにしたんだ。
So what did you write in the letter?
いろいろだ。お前と別れてから経験してきた大事な出来事や8年分のお前に対する思いとか。あ、先に言っておくけど数日かけて書いたからちょっと長くて退屈かもな。
No way, I've always wondered what happened in the years we were apart. Now that I finally have the chance, I won't pass it up.
そっか。なら読み終わったら返事を書いてくれるか？難しく考えず適当でいいから。
Luke, are you trying to make up for not keeping your promise of writing letters back then?
気づかれたか。手紙を書くって約束したのにいろんなことがあって書けなかったから。だからせめて。
In that case, why don't we rewrite each other a letter every month for 7 months? That will make up for the past 8 years.
もちろん。てっきり俺は忘れていいって言われると思ってたから。
I do think that, but more than that, I hope that you can head into the future with me without any regrets.
これから過ごす毎日は完璧にしていこう。